Julie Inman Grant, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
You're taking action against a UK company which runs Nudify websites. Just tell us first, explain what Nudify is.
Well, Nudify is a software, and in this case, it's a generator rather than an app where you can download an image or two of your classmate. In 4 out of 5 cases, this is of girls or women. You put it into the online website, and it generates a deep nude, so an accurate depiction of what that person would look like naked.
Do we have any sense of how many Australian children or young people have used it?
For these particular sites that we're taking action against, we know at least 100,000 visits a month.
100,000 visits a month.
From Australia.
And what are you able to do with the action that you're taking? What effect will it have? Will it stop children from being able to access those particular websites?
Well, this is a pretty pernicious and resilient bad actor, I would say. It's very lucrative, and obviously their business model is predicated on nudifying, humiliating, and denigrating mostly girls and women. So we expect that there may not be an immediate response, but this is the first shot off the bow to say, we're giving you a formal warning. We expect to see guardrails for you to be able to operate in our market, and if not, we won't hesitate to take further enforcement action in terms of civil penalties of up to $49.5 million.
And to be clear, you're not naming the company in question because you don't want to give them free advertising?
That is right. I don't think we need to stir up any more interest in these apps. I mean, there are about 85 major services like this that are in existence in the world, so we know we're playing a game of whack-a-mole. But we've used some of these systemic powers before to good effect. In fact, Omegle, which was a chat roulette site that was known for years of pairing young people with pedophiles, folded up their office about three months after we took some regulatory action against them. And Skype, which was owned by Microsoft, was deprecated this year after we exposed that it was being a live streamed child sexual abuse vector.
Just explain deprecated. What does that mean?
Deprecated means they got rid of the service altogether. It's no longer in existence.
What happens if the company just ignores you?
Well, then we take further action, including civil penalties in court. And the good thing to say, 10 years ago when we were established as the first online safety regulator, we were the only one in the world. We had no partners. Today, we've started the Global Online Safety Regulators Network, and we're working closely with Ofcom, which is the UK-based regulator. And being able to work with regulators around the globe where they have jurisdiction, I think will help all of us.
Now, you just mentioned the fact that there are 85 or so of these similar companies operating in the world. What's to stop those Australian children and young people that you talk about? If you are successful, if you get them to change their practice in Australia, won't they just migrate to the others?
Well, that is certainly a possibility, but again, this is the whack-a-mole, and we also know that these companies are using very sophisticated monetizing strategies, including advertising their services on mainstream social media sites. As an example, another one called Crush AI was advertising on Instagram. A number of times we referred that to the platform. You could see there was a bit of a whack-a-mole system taking place, and then Meta came out and sued the owners of Crush AI for 87,000 violations of their ad system. So again, these are very sophisticated operators.
So you talk about the size of the fines that you now have in your armory. Have you used fines? Have they had an effect?
Well, most of the fines that we have issued are being challenged in court. And this is the huge challenge we're not only going to have with jurisdiction, but when you're coming up against the richest, most powerful companies in the world who have armies of lawyers and very deep pockets. You know, at one point we had 8 different cases against X-Corp, for instance. Now, we've won 2 of those in federal court, particularly around their unwillingness and civil penalties around failing to tell us how they are combating child sexual abuse material on their platform.
Sorry, sometimes it literally takes your breath away. Yeah. When you sit in the room with these big tech companies, these are people who know that their systems have been used to do violent things to children, no matter how you look at it, do they ever express regret or shame?
Not that I've heard. And that's what makes it all the more disturbing. Having worked in the technology sector for 22 years, I know what they're capable of, and not a single one of them is doing everything they can to stop the most heinous of abuse to children being tortured and raped, and this imagery being perpetuated online.
So in June, you registered an industry code for search engines, which is coming into effect at the end of this year, is that right?
That's correct.
So what will it do?
Okay. So to explain the codes are developed, they're co-regulatory, they're developed by the industry in consultation with me. I ultimately register the codes if I believe they meet appropriate community safeguards. So the first tranche of codes were registered last year and are now in effect. Those are the ones that I'm using. There were two that I didn't think met appropriate community safeguards, so I created standards, which then becomes a disallowable instrument. And this first set of codes dealt with illegal content like child sexual abuse material and terrorist and violent content. The search engine codes that I just registered, and I'll be hoping to register more codes tomorrow, deal with preventing under-18s from accessing violent pornography, graphic violence, suicidal ideation, self-harm, and disordered eating material. And so what this will do, it really codifies a lot of the current safety practices in the search engine industry right now. So if you will not have to upload your ID to search the internet. That is a fallacy. But if you are a logged-in user, and a number of families are when they use the shared computer because they want a safe search to be turned on, then you will have to age verify. If you're not, it may mean that children who are searching and come across pornography will have blurring. You'll have to click a button to ensure that it's unblurred. But one of the reasons for that is that we know that about a third of under 13-year-olds that first come across violent pornography come about it incidentally and accidentally through searching, and not just on porn sites, on social media sites that allow pornography today. The other thing that's really important about these codes is that when somebody is searching for information about how to kill themselves, it will redirect them to mental health services. So to give somebody who's really in the throes of crisis another chance to really talk to a medical professional and get the help that they need.
How are you going to stop children's vulnerability to the very fast developing world of AI chatbots, companion chatbots?
Well, we started to be concerned about AI companion chatbots in October last year when we started hearing from schools that 10 and 11-year-olds were spending up to 5 or 6 hours per day on AI companions, most of them sexualized chatbots that were instructing them in engaging in specific sexual acts. So I did call the industry together in April to say that I didn't think the codes that they had provided me were going to meet appropriate community safeguards, and this was a particular concern of mine, that I wanted the chatbots to be prevented from under 18s using them, particularly instructing them on suicidal ideation, self-harm, disordered eating, and on sexualized acts. I'm going through them with a fine-tooth comb today, and I hope they have come to the table. If I do register these codes tomorrow, this will be the first comprehensive law in the world that will require the companies, before they deploy them, to embed the safeguards and use the age assurance. We don't need to see a body count to know that this is the right thing for the companies to do.
Just to come back to the point we were discussing before, given that the company in question, the companies that are creating these chatbots, they understand exactly how they work and how they could be used by people underage, they're continuing to deploy them knowing what you know about how dangerous they are.
Oh, they're deliberately addictive by design. They use anthropomorphism to mimic human speech, Mark Zuckerberg said this was a great antidote to loneliness. And of course, there were just internal policy documents that were released saying that they were going to enable sensual conversations between 12-year-olds. Elon Musk has been talking about Grok AI, the spicy AI with sexualized Ani being deployed to teenagers. They know exactly what they're doing. They're also using sycophancy as a way to sort of reinforce people's beliefs.
Let's talk about age assurance, because you've just run a big trial in Australia done by a UK firm. Age assurance, you need to be in place in Australia in time for the social media ban. Can you do it in time?
Well, the burden and the onus is going to be on the platforms to be able to identify and deactivate the accounts of under 16s by December 10th. I believe they're absolutely capable of doing so. I've been speaking to at very senior levels of these companies since December of last year, and what we fully expect will happen, and I've had this reinforced by a number of the companies, is they'll use what we call a waterfall approach or successive validation. They'll use a number of different tools to assess whether a child is 13. So they can do things like use natural language processing, that language and the emojis kids are using. 13-year-olds tend to talk to other 13-year-olds. They can tell when kids are on before school and after school. There are a whole range of behavioral signals that they can pick up on.
So the information and the capacity is there. They don't have to build anything new. They've got it all already. They can do it if they want to do it.
Yes, at varying levels of success. And so what the age assurance technical trial does says that if you want to ensure that you're achieving the right outcomes, then you can use these tested technologies, and they have different levels of accuracy, robustness, but they've also been shown to be privacy preserving. So this gives them additional data points, but a number of companies...
Can you break that down? Can you stop them retaining this information once it's gathered?
Well, what's really unique about this is that there are two regulators involved in this. So the Office of the Information Commissioner or the Privacy Commissioner will be able to regulate based on privacy. So we're working very closely with them to ensure that the solutions and the approaches that we're asking the companies to take are not only guaranteeing the safety of under 16-year-olds, but also the privacy.
And just briefly, obviously there was a lot of discussion when the date was released for when this will come into play about children are clever, children will use VPNs. Why is the VPN not the way around this, the workaround?
Right. Well, having worked on the social media minimum age regulatory guidance this weekend, one of the areas of focus is to, again, put the responsibility back on the platforms to identify the IP ranges that are associated with the major VPNs. There will be a range of different circumvention measures that teenagers will use, God love them, including using AI and deepfakes to spoof age identity systems using the equivalent of fake IDs. And so we've outlined what we think some of those circumvention measures will be and what we expect the companies to do to prevent that circumvention.
You have children. How do you manage?
Well, I've got children in the sweet spot. I've got a 19-year-old and I've got 13-year-old twins who've told me they will be pariahs when the bill is introduced. It's taught me a lot. I test a lot of the scripts that we're developing for parents on them to see how they respond. I think it's really important for me to be living the challenges that every parent is grappling with right now. I'm there with you, and I've seen my own children misuse technology. I went in to meet the CEO of TikTok, and my then 10-year-old had just tried to set up a TikTok account, and we went together to remove it, and it had already been removed for minor safety. So I said to the CEO, it was kind of embarrassing. I'm the eSafety Commissioner, and my 10-year-old tried to set up an account, but your systems obviously work. He said, yeah, we know the age of a child within 3 seconds. Now, this was 2 years ago. So any company today that tells me that they can't identify the age of a child is more focused on building their pipeline of young users for the future. We know that 95% of 10 to 15-year-olds today have a social media account, so the capability is there. But the part that people aren't saying out loud right now about what this is about, there are 2.5 million 10 to 15-year-olds in Australia that they won't be able to monetize with the social media bill.
3 seconds.
Yep, 3 seconds. It's about profits. It's not about kids and well-being.
Julie Inman Grant, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.